10. Serious crimes committed by men in silly costumes. The strangest crimes ever caught on camera. Welcome to Odd Occasions, where we dive into the strangest and most unexpected stories from the world of crime. Today, we're counting down 10 bizarre crimes committed by people in the silliest costumes imaginable. From clowns and gorillas to unicorns, these crimes might sound funny, but they're as real as they get. Every day, crimes are committed by people from all walks of life for all kinds of reasons. Usually, we imagine them dressed in typical crime attire, ski masks, dark hoodies, or business suits. But sometimes, the wrongdoers add a twist. They're dressed in costumes. Perhaps it's a strange attempt at a disguise, a prank gone wrong, or just the effects of too much alcohol or too little reason. Let's get into it. Number 10. Clown leads police on a high-speed chase. It was a warm July afternoon in 2019, and drivers on California's 405 freeway found themselves caught in one of the most bizarre traffic jams they'd ever seen. A black BMW was creeping along the fast lane, barely moving at 2 to 3 miles per hour. But what really turned heads was the driver. On top of the car sat a man in a full clown mask and a bright green wig. In his hand, a chainsaw. Traffic slowed as people took in the scene. This wasn't just any clown. With his green hair and wild gestures, he looked like he was channeling the Joker himself. But just as people began to take photos and videos, the scene took another strange turn. As California Highway Patrol arrived, the clown ditched his slow crawl and sped up, pulling out onto the open freeway. The bizarre joyride turned into a high-speed chase, with officers in close pursuit as he headed north on the 405, picking up speed. This wasn't just a quick getaway. The clown kept driving, reaching the 90 freeway, weaving between cars and taking sudden turns as he made his way toward Venice Beach. At one point, he even climbed out of the driver's seat, back onto the roof of his BMW, gesturing wildly at the officers chasing him. The clown sped through side streets, dodging traffic, as the chase made its way to the iconic beachfront. Finally, the car came to a stop on the oceanfront walk, the clown spilling out onto the boardwalk. And here's where things got even stranger. He leaped out, running past beachgoers, some of whom stopped in shock at the sight of a shirtless clown holding a chainsaw. One witness later said that he even stopped to help someone bury themselves in the sand, acting as though he wasn't being chased at all. But the clown had one last trick up his sleeve. He threw off his shirt and sprinted toward the water, diving in as if he could somehow escape into the ocean. Police quickly caught up, pulling him out of the water and placing him under arrest. The clown was soon identified as Damik A. Distier, and the chainsaw, thankfully, turned out to be a toy. A woman who had been inside the BMW with him was questioned, but ultimately released. Distier's motives still unclear. His bail was set at $75,000, and he awaited a court date. This high-speed harlequin's antics may have brought a laugh to witnesses, but for the California Highway Patrol, it was no laughing matter. Number 9. Teletubby Steals Leftovers. It was the early hours of October 26, 2014, and in the quiet town of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, an unexpected character was on the loose. Terez Owens Jr., a 20-year-old student at Lehigh University, had chosen a very unconventional outfit for a late-night visit to a friend's house. Dressed head to toe as Laa-Laa, the yellow Teletubby from the popular children's show, Owens set off into the night. Around 2 a.m., Owens approached a friend's residence on the south side of Bethlehem. And this wasn't exactly a friendly stop by. Owens broke in, damaging the door as he forced his way inside. You can only imagine the surprise if anyone had been awake. A full-sized yellow Teletubby creeping through the door. Once inside, Owens didn't go looking for valuables or cash. Instead, he made a beeline straight to the fridge. He opened it, rummaged through the contents, and found what he wanted: leftover Chinese food. But here's where it gets stranger. Rather than simply take the food, Owens pulled out what was described as a man purse and began transferring the leftovers into it, container by container. With his haul complete, he left just as he'd come in, with no trace of his motives except a broken door and an empty fridge. The following morning, the house residents discovered the odd break-in, and police soon tracked down Owens. At first, the residents didn't press charges, seemingly amused by the absurdity of the situation. But the plot thickened when the landlord got involved, demanding action over the damaged property. Owens was eventually charged with disorderly conduct and criminal mischief. The incident quickly caught media attention. Bethlehem's police chief Mark DeLucio had this to say about the case. "Not that many Teletubbies get arrested. You can't make it up." As for Owens, his reasons for dressing as Laa-Laa and breaking in just to steal leftovers remain a mystery. Was it a prank, a Halloween stunt gone wrong, or simply the result of a long night out? Whatever the motivation, one thing is certain: Bethlehem's residents won't soon forget the night Laa-Laa raided the fridge for a snack. Number 8. Walmart robbed of milk by man in cow costume. Walmart is known for its eccentric customers, but on the night of April 26, 2011, the Walmart in Stafford, Virginia, witnessed one of its strangest visitors yet, a robber dressed as a cow. It was 10:35 p.m., and 18-year-old Jonathan Payton decided to make a memorable entrance. Dressed in a full cow costume, he walked into Walmart on all fours. Shoppers watched in confusion as the cow-suited Payton crawled across the floor, eventually grabbing a shopping cart and standing up, in classic human fashion. Without missing a beat, Payton wheeled his cart toward the dairy section. There, he loaded it with 26 gallons of milk, packing in as much as it could hold. And then, he just walked right out the door. He made no attempt to hide the milk, no effort to pay. Just a man in a cow suit, pushing a cart full of milk straight out of the store. Surveillance cameras captured the entire surreal scene. But the milk-loving cow didn't stop there. Outside, Payton decided to take things even further. He began handing out gallons of milk to random people right in the parking lot. The sight of a cow trying to give away milk at a Walmart would be enough to turn anyone's head. But his plan didn't quite pan out, as most passers-by declined the offer. With his mission incomplete, Payton abandoned the milk, ditched his cow costume, and fled the scene. But his getaway didn't last long. The Walmart manager had already called the police, who were on their way. Shortly after, a report came in of a disturbance at the McDonald's across the street. The officer responded, and there he found a young man who looked suspiciously familiar, even without the costume. Payton was brought back to Walmart, where employees quickly identified him as the culprit they'd just watched on surveillance. He was charged with stealing $92 worth of milk. And yes, his cow costume was recovered as evidence. Why did he do it? No one knows for sure, but his late-night dairy heist, from his four-legged entrance to his attempted milk giveaway, has become one of Walmart's most memorable crimes. Number 7. Meth-carrying gorilla resists arrest. It was the evening of February 13, 2019 in Sulphur, Louisiana, when police received a call they wouldn't soon forget. The report was of a suspicious man dressed in dark clothing, seen wandering in and out of people's yards. Officers were dispatched to the area, looking for a man dressed in black pants and a black jacket, seemingly up to no good. But what they found was much stranger. As they arrived, officers located their prowler, only to realize he wasn't dressed in dark clothes at all. Instead, he was suited head to toe as a gorilla. The officers called out, ordering the gorilla-costumed man to stop. But instead of complying, he bolted toward a nearby house, slipping through the front door before officers could catch up. The police, unsure if he lived there, followed in pursuit, determined to track him down. When they reached the house, they found the back door wide open and assumed he'd already made his escape. Officers spread out, searching the area and nearby streets, but turned up nothing. It wasn't until they re-entered the house that they realized their gorilla hadn't gone anywhere. A thorough search of the house turned up nothing until officers decided to check one last room. There, hiding beneath a mattress, was the gorilla. It was an unusual sight to say the least, and this time he didn't try to run. Officers pulled him from his hiding spot and began cuffing him. Relieved the chase was finally over. But it wasn't. Just as they were securing the cuffs, the man, later identified as Jeremy Moran, suddenly began resisting. With one wrist still free, he twisted out of the officer's grip and made another break for it. A struggle ensued, but after a brief scuffle, officers finally subdued Moran and took him into custody. Once at the Sulphur City Jail, the full story began to unfold. In addition to trespassing and resisting arrest, officers found methamphetamine in Moran's possession, along with drug paraphernalia. He was formally charged with a list of offenses, including possession of meth, possession of drug paraphernalia, unauthorized entry of a dwelling, resisting an officer with force, flight from an officer, and an unusual final charge, wearing a mask in a public place. In Louisiana, it's actually illegal to wear a mask or hood in public unless it's for a holiday, like Mardi Gras or Halloween, or for religious purposes. Violation of this law can carry a prison sentence of up to 3 years. The arrest of Jeremy Moran, the meth-carrying gorilla of Sulphur, Louisiana, may be one of the strangest cases in the town's recent memory, and it serves as a reminder that you never really know what you'll find when you answer a call. Number 6. An elf off his shelf. It was December 19th, 2014, just a few days before Christmas, and in the quiet town of Riverdale, New Jersey, things were about to get a little festive. At around 3:30 a.m., Sergeant Pat Harden received a call about a suspicious vehicle parked by the loading dock of a Target store. As he pulled up, he saw it, a gray Toyota van, headlights on, engine running, and music blaring from inside. But when Sergeant Harden approached the driver's window, he discovered something unexpected. There, slumped over the steering wheel, was a man in a full elf-on-the-shelf costume. The driver, later identified as 23-year-old Brian Chellis, was out cold. In one hand, he held a half-empty beer can, and the car reeked of alcohol. Harden knocked on the window, rousing Chellis, who groggily came to, giving the officer a faceful of beer breath in the process. The elf had clearly had a little too much Christmas cheer. Once Chellis was out of the car, Sergeant Harden conducted a series of field sobriety tests. And, well, the elf didn't pass a single one. Chellis, stumbling and slurring, struggled through each test as his holiday outfit jangled along. The officer escorted him to the police station, where a breathalyzer confirmed what was already clear. Chellis was well over the legal limit. That night, The elf off the shelf faced some serious charges. He was booked for driving while intoxicated, careless driving, and possession of an open container of alcohol in a vehicle. The sight of a passed-out elf in a parking lot may have brought a chuckle to the officers that night. But for Brian Chellis, it's a reminder that sometimes even Santa's little helpers need a designated driver. Number 5. Drunken Care Bear brawls with homeowner realizes he's in the wrong town. It was the early hours of October the 29th, 2017. Halloween was just around the corner, and in Des Moines, Iowa, one homeowner was finishing up the cleanup from his Halloween party, hoping to wind down from the night's festivities. But as he walked to his driveway, he stumbled upon a sight he never expected. A man, fully passed out in his truck, dressed head to toe as Grumpy Bear from the Care Bears. The 30-year-old intruder, later identified as Cody Schaefer, was fast asleep in his Grumpy Bear costume, sprawled across the front seat. And when the homeowner tried to wake him up, things took an unexpected turn. True to his character's name, the costume-clad Schaefer was anything but cheerful when roused. In fact, he was downright combative. As the homeowner attempted to get him out of the truck, Schaefer became agitated. What began as a conversation quickly escalated until Schaefer attacked the homeowner. Taken aback, the homeowner retreated into his house, locking the door behind him, hoping that would be enough to keep the angry Care Bear at bay. But Schaefer wasn't done. Fueled by alcohol and perhaps a little confusion, he kicked down the door, breaking the lock and storming inside. At this point, the homeowner was left with no choice but to defend himself. With the help of a friend, he tackled Schaefer to the floor, managing to hold him down just long enough for the police to arrive. But the struggle left both the homeowner and his friend with minor injuries, and Schaefer still wasn't fully subdued, making his costume even more bizarrely out of place amid the chaos. When police finally arrived, they quickly assessed the situation. Schaefer, still in full Grumpy Bear attire, was belligerent and visibly intoxicated. A breathalyzer test later showed he was far past the legal limit, blowing a 179, more than twice the legal threshold for driving. And his explanation? In his drunken state, Schaefer claimed he thought he was in Burlington, Iowa, not Des Moines. Though both places are in the same state, they're miles apart. Burlington is in Des Moines County, while the city of Des Moines is in Polk County. Schaefer, it seemed, was entirely disoriented, not only unaware of his actual location, but apparently convinced that one of his drinks had been spiked. Despite his claims, police didn't take the mix-up lightly. Schaefer was charged with first-degree burglary and second-degree robbery, serious charges for an uncharacteristically violent Care Bear who managed to turn an innocent costume into an evening of confusion and chaos. The tale of the Grumpy Bear brawl quickly spread through the neighborhood, adding a strange, surreal twist to that Halloween season, reminding us all that sometimes even the most innocent costumes can come with some very unexpected surprises. Number 4. Fairy Breaks Man's Jaw. Halloween night had come and gone in Auburn, Alabama, leaving the city in the lingering haze of late-night celebrations. It was the early hours of November 1st, 2018, around 4:30 a.m., when an 18-year-old Auburn University student was walking near campus, headed home after the festivities. The streets were quiet, with only a few stragglers from the night's events lingering about. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a man dressed as a fairy approached him. The costume was unmistakable, a bright outfit with wings, glitter, and all. But what happened next was even more unexpected. Without a word, the man in the fairy costume hauled back and punched the student in the face, landing a single, brutal hit. The blow was so powerful that it left the young man staggering, disoriented, and just as quickly as he'd appeared, the fairy turned and took off down the street, vanishing into the pre-dawn darkness. The young man, in shock and immense pain, made his way to the East Alabama Medical Center. When doctors examined him, the full extent of his injuries became clear. His jaw had been broken. The attack was random, unprovoked, and left the young man in need of medical attention, and later, significant recovery time. The Auburn Police Department was soon notified, and an investigation was launched. Officers searched for witnesses, reviewed any security footage available near the scene, and asked the public for tips, hoping someone would come forward with information about the mysterious fairy attacker. Nearly a week later, on November 7th, police made a breakthrough in the case. They identified and arrested a 19-year-old local named John David Wood. A resident of Auburn, Wood had reportedly been wearing a fairy costume the night of the attack, and witnesses, along with other evidence, connected him to the crime. The motive behind Wood's assault remains unclear. Whether it was a moment of drunken aggression, a prank gone horribly wrong, or something else entirely, his actions had serious consequences. Wood was charged with felony second-degree assault due to the severity of the victim's injuries. The charge, a serious one, reflected the brutality of the unprovoked punch. He was taken into custody and held at the Lee County Jail on a $25,000 bond. The incident, remembered by locals as the fairy punch, became a strange, unsettling reminder of the unpredictability of Halloween night. What started as a whimsical costume, a fairy complete with wings and glitter, had turned into a disguise for violence, leaving one young man injured and another facing serious legal consequences. In the days that followed, the victim began his recovery from the broken jaw. And as the details of the assault made their way through the community, Auburn residents were left with a bizarre, cautionary tale about that Halloween night when a fairy costume hid the intentions of a man ready to deliver a punch that no one saw coming. Number 3. Clown hair, don't care. It was the evening of February 6, 2016, and in Jefferson County, Alabama, a quiet night for one deputy was about to take a strange turn. While on patrol, he was flagged down by a passing motorist who reported something odd: a red Ford SUV swerving all over the road, veering dangerously close to oncoming traffic. The deputy quickly located the weaving vehicle and initiated a stop. As he approached, he could see a figure behind the wheel. But this wasn't just any driver. This was a man in full clown attire, from the bright red nose down to the colorful frizzy wig. Meet Joel Allen Sloan, age 51, a clown who was clearly not in control of his vehicle or himself. The strong scent of alcohol hit the deputy the moment Sloan opened his window, and his glazed eyes and slurred speech only confirmed what the erratic driving had already suggested. When questioned, Sloan insisted he'd only had a few drinks at a nearby restaurant. Just how he defined a few was left unclear, but his bloodshot eyes and heavy breath told a different story. Adding to the mystery was Sloan's choice of attire. He gave no explanation for why he was dressed as a clown, and none was apparent. Whether he had come from a children's event, a party, or simply felt it was a good night to go out as a clown, Sloan wasn't saying. But the deputy wasn't amused, and Sloan was soon placed under arrest. Things only became more complicated once they reached the station. A quick background check revealed that Sloan had an outstanding felony warrant for theft, which made his situation even more serious. While most people might find such circumstances sobering, Sloan seemed surprisingly carefree. When an officer took his booking photo, the drunken clown couldn't resist. He flashed a wide smile, still in full clown makeup. The bizarre scene left even seasoned officers scratching their heads. Chief Deputy Randy Christian later commented, "I thought I had, but obviously I haven't seen it all." Sloan's mugshot, complete with clown hair, red nose, and tipsy grin, quickly became infamous, serving as a surreal reminder of the unexpected characters that law enforcement encounters on a daily basis. Though his arrest may have started as a routine traffic stop, it ended as a story that Jefferson County wouldn't soon forget. Number 2. Spaghetti Sauce Arson. It was a quiet morning in DeLand, Florida, on March 13, 2018. But around 7:00 a.m., a man received an alert from his home security system, which had detected motion. As he checked the live camera feed, his stomach dropped. Someone had broken into his home, and worse, one of the cameras had been covered with a towel. The man, realizing he was witnessing a burglary in progress, immediately called 911. What he didn't know yet was that the two men involved weren't strangers. They were actually his ex-boyfriends, John Silver, 28, and Derek Irving, 36, teaming up to rob his house. If that wasn't strange enough, the situation had an even more bizarre twist. Irving, the older of the two, was dressed in a full bull costume. As Silver and Irving ransacked the house, they grabbed everything from the man's television and air conditioning unit to his vacuum cleaner and space heater. But they had another, darker plan in mind: arson. Before leaving, they put a pot of ragu spaghetti sauce on the stove and set the burner on high. To get the fire started, they placed a washcloth near the burner, hoping it would catch fire and spread. Their plan was clear. They wanted to set the house ablaze, with the simmering ragu acting as a strange catalyst. As Silver and Irving loaded their loot into a red Lincoln Navigator, Volusia County Sheriff's deputies arrived at the scene, lights flashing. The burglars, spotting the police, attempted to make a quick getaway, speeding away from the house. But the deputies quickly intercepted the vehicle, bringing it to a stop not far from the scene of the crime. When the officers approached, they were met with an unusual sight. Irving, still wearing his bull costume, sitting in the passenger seat. Inside the car, the officers found an assortment of stolen goods that looked like the contents of a hastily packed yard sale. The stolen TV, air conditioner, vacuum cleaner, and space heater were crammed into the back seat, along with an empty jar of ragu sauce, evidence of their arson attempt. Adding to the list of charges, deputies also spotted a marijuana grinder lying in plain view. The two men tried to explain themselves, insisting they were only at the house to pick up some of Irving's clothes. But the evidence in the car told a different story. Back at the house, deputies discovered the pot of sauce still bubbling on the stove, and the washcloth near the burner had just begun to catch fire. Luckily, they were able to extinguish it before the flames could spread. Silver and Irving's bizarre burglary attempt didn't end well. Both men were charged with arson, grand theft, and unarmed burglary. Irving, who had violated his probation, was held without bond, while Silver's bond was set at $2,500. The two ex-boyfriends, united by their shared resentment and a baffling plan involving spaghetti sauce, were left to contemplate their strange heist from the confines of a jail cell. The spaghetti sauce arson, as it came to be known, remains one of Florida's most peculiar crimes, a blend of heartbreak, revenge, and culinary sabotage made even stranger by the sight of a man in a bull costume fleeing the scene. Number 1. Armed robbery is magic. It was the early hours of March 16, 2019, in Baldwin, Maryland, a quiet town just outside Baltimore. At around 5:00 a.m., as dawn was breaking over the small community, a scene was unfolding at High's Dairy Store that would leave both employees and locals in disbelief. Jacob William Rogger, a 28-year-old resident, had set out to rob the convenience store. But this wasn't just any robbery. Rogger needed a disguise, something that would conceal his identity from the store's security cameras. In a decision that likely raised a few eyebrows, he chose a pink and white unicorn costume. With the headpiece and full bodysuit, he looked more ready for a whimsical parade than a high-stakes robbery. Fully suited up, Rogger entered High's Dairy Store, clutching a crowbar in one hand. The cashier, taken aback, watched as the unicorn marched to the counter, demanding cash and cigarettes. When the cashier didn't move quickly enough, Rogger used the crowbar to smash the cash register, prying it open to grab as much money as he could. His loot in hand, he turned and fled the store, making his way toward a silver Hyundai Elantra waiting outside. In the driver's seat was 27-year-old Joseph Philip Swiedzisi, Rogger's accomplice. Once Rogger was in the car, the two sped off, leaving the scene in what they might have thought was the perfect getaway. But their escape plan unraveled almost as quickly as it began. As the Elantra zoomed through the early morning streets, Swiedzisi, who was behind the wheel, seemed to lose control at an intersection. In an attempt to make a quick turn, the car veered off the road, crossing into oncoming traffic before careening off the pavement. The Elantra hit several obstacles in rapid succession: a row of mailboxes, a Baltimore gas and electric pole, some shrubs, and a boulder, before coming to a crashing halt against a large tree. The getaway vehicle was totaled, and both Rogger and Swiedzisi were trapped inside, injured from the collision. Emergency responders arrived quickly and transported the two to nearby hospitals, where their injuries were reported as serious, though not life-threatening. Rogger's unicorn costume was later recovered by Baltimore County Police, a bizarre remnant of the ill-fated heist. Once the two men were medically stable, police wasted no time pressing charges. Rogger faced multiple charges, including theft, armed robbery, destruction of property, and both first and second-degree assault. Swiedzisi, who'd played his part in the ill-conceived escape, was also charged with theft, robbery, and armed robbery. The story of the unicorn robber quickly spread, a strange tale of a mythical creature turned criminal, armed not with magic, but with a crowbar. Rogger's choice of disguise left the community baffled, turning an otherwise standard armed robbery into something out of a surreal, twisted fairy tale. And while the unicorn's escape may have been anything but magical, the story remains an unforgettable reminder that sometimes truth really is stranger than fiction. Thanks for joining us on this strange and unforgettable journey into the world of costumed crime here on Odd Occasions. We hope these stories kept you as entertained and mystified as they did us. If you enjoyed today's bizarre tales, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on our next dive into the unusual and unsettling. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and remember, not everything is as it seems.